Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Dave Tree.
That's not true. That's impossible.
You're listening to Making Tracks, episode 13. I'm your host, Mark Newbold, and joining me, as always, from somewhere weird, wherever you are. Where are you, Dave? Where are you right now? Please don't say on the toilet.
Well, if you've not noticed by now that I'm not on the toilet every time we do these, then
Okay.
I'm heartbroken. Hello everyone, it's Dave. I am talking to you from the confines of all the cool stuff. Toy store in the deepest, darkest depths of the New Forest. And I say deepest, darkest because like the clocks have gone back now over in the UK, so it is actually dark outside. So all of a sudden, even though it's not even quite 6 o'clock, it feels a lot later than it actually is.
Yeah, freaked me out this morning. Luckily, I didn't have to get up this morning. I did MCM yesterday. I know you're always on the go and busy. What's your weekend entailed of so far?
Oh, well, it's weird. Where I am situated, I'm literally on the corner of Hampshire, the Dorset border and the Wiltshire border. And it's been half term for Hampshire and Dorset this week, but next week is Wiltshire. So you've had a lot of tourist footfall into the area. So I've had that going on. You've also got the build up to like Halloween. So there's a lot of pumpkin picking going on. I've got the Lego show event, of which Fantha Tracks will be there next weekend. So there's a lot of planning for that. There's probably a whole ton of other things that I've completely forgotten about, but it's been a mad couple of days. Well, I mean, it always is. You know,
Yeah.
you just one blurs into the next.
It does. It certainly does. Well, last weekend you and me were together in Birmingham at the NEC Hall 5, Destination Star Trek, which was fun. And then yesterday for me was MCM Comic Con down in London. Got to interview Michael Pennington, Grand Moff Gerard from Return of the Jedi. Or Moff. He's just Moff, isn't he? He's not a Grand Moff, is he? He's just Moff. So Moff Gerard. I think it was the first convention he'd ever done, and he was awesome. And today, full disclosure, has been a pyjama day. So I am currently sitting at my computer in my pyjamas. And my dressing gown, modesty protected everything, so... And of course, like I say, next weekend is Lego Fan Day, isn't it, down at Fordham Bridge? So looking forward to that. I'm coming down to that with Ruth, and Martin Keeler's coming with Emma, and so we're all going to see you there next week. So that's going to be fun.
It's going to be good. Yeah, no, and like you say, we both together at Destination Star Trek. And for anybody out there, Mark is a huge Star Trek fan. I know nothing. So I am actually literally having to ask Mark who, what, where, when, and all this sort of stuff. And I was running a stand, and it wasn't that I was out of my depth. I just had no product knowledge and no idea what people were asking me half the time. And I just said, well, look, this is what we got. And I think that's quite cool.
Every time I walked past your table, you were foot to the floor, because I kept coming over, because I was stage managing a stage, the fan stage, the Excelsior stage, which sounds really grand. And it was really cool. I'm stoked for season 2. Season 2 looks amazing, and there's all kinds of new stuff. Since the show last week, they announced there's an animated show from the guys behind Rick and Morty.
Right.
A comedy animated show's coming out, so that's going to be fun. And I would have put money on it being Seth MacFarlane doing that, but of course he's doing the Orville. So there's all sorts of stuff coming. So Trek's nice and busy, but so Star Wars. I mean, this week we've had the announcement of Lego Star Wars All Stars, which is going to mash up characters from all across the Star Wars saga. What we're going to do now, though, we're going to hop into some interviews. We've got a busy episode today. We've got loads and loads of interviews. So the first one is in relation to a wonderful book that I reviewed on Fantha Tracks this week called Women of the Galaxy. It's written by Amy Ratcliffe, who's written for StarWars.com, The Nerdist. She's been around for donkey's years. She's a stage host at Celebration. She's also a friend of mine, and she's an awesome author and a really nice lady. Here's my little chat with her at New York Comic Con talking about Women of the Galaxy. If I was a Star Wars fan who had never read your book, has not sat down and gone through your book, which I haven't yet because it's not out yet, but if I hadn't, how would you sell me this book as a Star Wars fan? What is the draw for me?
The art, okay, Star Wars Women of the Galaxy, I don't mean to put myself down, but I think the art is the number one sell, because 75 characters, 110 illustrations. Yeah. all in different artist styles from 18 artists. And as a fan of the books and the comics, especially the books, you get to see characters that have either never been illustrated or rarely been illustrated. And it was like cool for me to see like Kirsta Agate or Durla, though Durla I guess was in Last Jedi and Canto Bight, but to see something I'm like, oh, I've only pictured them in my head really so far.
So were there any surprises when you saw, because obviously every artist's interpretation is kind of individual unless they're just drawn from a photograph. There's no fun in that. Were you surprised by what came back with some of these images?
Yes, the artists knocked it out of the park, and what they really did, I think, beautifully is captured not only these characters, but kind of the vibe of these characters. So if you look at the illustration of Ray Sloan, like she looks really intimidating. Or if you look at Sienna Rhee, which is, I love Lost Stars. I was so excited to include her in the book. She looks kind of what you would like, kind of, it's in her Empire, like when she's just getting into the Empire, so she's like hopeful and proud, and that comes across, like these emotions come across in the art, which...
When the book was written, how did it work? Was it text first, art later, or art first and text later? Meaning that, did the artwork inspire your writing?
Text first. I kind of wrote the first draft, and while I was off writing that, my editor and assistant editor, Chronicle, were working with Lucasfilm to find the artists and figure out who they were going to draw, and that had to be a lot of cats to herd. I can't even imagine trying to pull that all together. It came together, obviously, but...
So you must have been absolutely stoked when you've got your text and then that picture, whichever one it was, drops above it or beside it.
Yeah, incredibly so. And some things I was able to, like, when I wrote the text, I was like, for Phasma, for example, I'm like, you know, they talk about her teenage life in the novel Phasma. If we could show, like, a young Phasma, like, that would be super cool, and I think fans would really respond to it. And then they did that. So it was nice to kind of, not that I really had a lot of input, but to kind of be like, this would be a good idea. And that they actually were like, oh, yeah, like, we'll consider that.
An interesting thought just occurs back when Topps were doing the Galaxy series, and there was a lot of interpretations of, you know, you saw a young Obi-Wan that looked a bit like Alec Guinness, and the Yoda statue that Lucasfilm said you can't use anymore, but you know what I mean? But there's all those interpretations. It kind of feels like this book has got that element to it.
Yeah, because the artists it's in their individual styles. They didn't really make them stay, like, on model, so to speak. Yeah. So it is like a giant, like, not fan art book because it's officially licensed, but it's like I'm flipping through Tumblr, but it's official and it's in this beautiful book.
So when you were doing your research, did you learn anything that you didn't know about certain characters? Were there any surprises that came up to you?
Absolutely. I try to read as many of the books and comics as I can, but I definitely miss out on some comics and some books geared towards younger readers. So Lena Groff, had no idea who that was, I had to admit it. Had to go get The Adventures of Wild Space. Had to. I had to go get some Star Wars books. Had to hunt down The Adventures of Wild Space book and read those and learned about her and her family, and then learned that she had this connection to Mira Bridger and to Lothal. So finding out about those kind of things was like, just like, oh, I just feel like I just had this like little like discovery moment in Star Wars that other people have realized for a while probably, but it made me think about like, I want to read it all. Like, I can't miss anything.
This
like,
is the trouble. There's not enough hours in the day.
No, they're not. Because I'm like, I thought I was doing pretty good, but no.
Right, makes you realise just how much is out there, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially with the comics. I feel like that's always like, I like to read trades rather than issues, so I usually wait for trades.
Then collect,
Yeah. But then by the time that happens, like, there's so many series now, and that's always like, I have to like check in with myself every few months to be like, what am I missing? What has come out? Let me go to Wikipedia and see what's on the timeline that I don't have.
So your hopes for the book, you had the panel yesterday as we speak. The panel went really well. Seeing all the images on the screen, all the artists with you on the stage, all good fun. Are your hopes that this obviously does well for yourself and for Chronicle, but that there's the potential for other books and other opportunities?
I really hope so. I can't believe what a gift it is that this was my first book. I could not have imagined a project I would want to do more than this.
This is what you would have picked.
This is what it is. And writing the Star Wars book was a dream. So it is a dream come true. And for it to be this is just remarkable. And it was a rough, emotional, process, definitely, like when you're in it and doing it and just thinking about like, okay, what do I have left? What do I have done? Can I find out about solo characters yet? But
of course, yeah, there's all the involved elements to it, yeah.
Exactly. So even with all of that, having it starting to be out in the world, seeing people excited about it and coming up and saying like, thank you for doing this, like it's rewarding, and I would be so honored to do it again, like to do another book.
Totally. And like I say, it's a coffee table book. It's a substantial piece of book.
It is, and it's just, I mean, just a gorgeous layout. I was just telling someone, I feel like with a warm color palette and like the foil on the color that kind of shines, like I just feel like it glows in your hands.
Yeah, it does. It really does pop. It's going to pop on the shelves.
Oh, I hope so.
It will.
I hope so.
Now, we're at New York Comic Con, obviously.
Yes.
What are your plans for the rest of the weekend?
New York Comic Con, I have a couple more panels. I have a Disney Lucasfilm publishing panel and a Disney Lucasfilm female writers panel. But other than that, I'm in New York. There's a Harry Potter exhibit at a museum. I'm wearing a Harry Potter dress.
I did notice.
So I'm going to go check that out while I'm here. I want to go shopping for clothes that I 100% do not need. But there's a really cool Black Panther dress I have my eyes on. I can't buy books because I don't want to have to carry them home.
No.
My shoulders can't take it. And just browsing and seeing
what you can see.
Basically, yes. It's overwhelming. Yeah, I got to see the She-Ra statue yesterday. I was very excited about that. Can't wait for the reboot. So.
One final question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you've been to the UK and you're a Potter fan. Did you get to the Harry Potter studios?
Yes, actually, it's so funny. I did it a couple years ago after Celebration Europe, but then I just did it again in August because I had an unexpected free afternoon.
Did you notice how much it had changed up?
Yes. Yeah, they have the Forbidden Forest area now that wasn't there before. So I was glad to know that too. I'm like, oh, this is definitely something I can do repeatedly and see new stuff, and it's just still like magical is a cliche word to use, but just like to see all that behind the scenes, like I love that stuff. Yeah,
it's amazing. Me and my wife go over a couple of years and we didn't realise how much
so they much. I'm glad they do that. I think there's a huge construction area, so I think, are they adding Fantastic
to the outside to the right?
So I don't know if they're adding Fantastic Beasts stuff or just more Potter, but I'll take it all.
Put it on.
I'm like, let me know when it's done, I'll come back over.
Totally. Amy, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Mark.
And we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Tell us, or when I say tell us, what the hell am I talking about? What about from your side of things?
From my side of things, well, when we did the interview, I know what you're getting at. When we did the interview, that was really good. That was professional. When we did the interview back at New York Comic Con, I hadn't seen the book. I'd got the book, but the book turned up the day that I flew out, so I didn't have a chance to read it. So when I spoke to Amy, I'd only seen like press material, and they've been talking about the book for a while, because obviously it's the first book written exclusively by a female author with all female and non-binary artists. So it's a unique book in that respect. It's from a different point of view, isn't it, if you want to use the old cliche. So when I did the review on Fantha, the whole thing was, well, okay, it's unique in that respect, and it's worthwhile in that respect, but it's got to stand up as a Star Wars book against all of the Star Wars books. It can't just stand up on that one ticket, if that makes sense. And I kind of got challenged on Twitter by somebody who said, did you get the book for free? Is that like a puff piece sort of thing? Is that written because you got a free book? There's no requirement for me to say I like anything. I genuinely like the book. I thought the artwork was beautifully chosen and well picked. Amy's written concise breakdowns of each of the characters. For somebody who's coming into the fandom, especially for somebody coming into the fandom, especially a female fan coming into the fandom, if they were to pick up a book that's going to give them an idea of, okay, I'm new to this Star Wars thing. I see lots of guys running around and lots of cool aliens running around, but I've seen Princess Leia, but what else is there? This is the book for them. But if you're a general Star Wars fan, there's stuff of value in the book. It's just a really nice book. It's a nice size book as well. That sounds really weird, but it's not a monster coffee table book. It's a nice size book. I just liked it. It's not a 10x8 sort of size book. I just liked everything about it. So hats off to Amy. It's a great book, and I really hope she gets the chance to come back with different artists and different visions and different characters, pick it up in a few years' time and do a second one.
Booker's alive! Be gone with him!
This weekend just gone was MCM London Comic Con. Matt and Martin were there on Friday and Sunday, and on the Sunday they caught up with Patrick from Hasbro, talk about the latest product, what's coming out, and here's a bit of content from there.
So we're here, Patrick from Hasbro.
Hey there, man. Good to see you.
What's your job title?
I'm the senior brand manager for our Star Wars Hasbro brand.
Cool.
Yeah.
The good stuff.
I guess so. Yeah.
Really
exactly. We have great brands, but I like Star Wars the best.
Really?
I know, right? You
gives it
you
away.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So you've been doing Star Wars 3 years?
3 years, yeah. So 3 years and 2 months. Started in August of 2015.
Yeah.
Best month of my life. Started Star Wars and actually met my wife within 10 days of each other. So
Really?
Doesn't get any better than that.
So how's things changing in Hasbro, or changed in those 3 years?
Evolving.
Because it started off, you were in the peak of Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And now we're well into it all.
Absolutely.
So
No, that's a good question. I think it's been an exciting 3 years, and I think it's great times to come. We're really excited for 2019 because obviously you have Episode 9, the conclusion of the Skywalker saga. You have the Mandalorian coming in the next couple of years from Jon Favreau. I know that looks everything we've seen publicly about it so far looks amazing.
That 3 photos.
I know exactly. Can't say anything.
So when's
you've not
ice cream maker coming out?
We'll
Don't
see.
we wish?
I know, right? Return of the Clone Wars, the Resistance, the video game. So I think what's changed is actually we have more content than we even did back in 2015 because it's expanded to all those different tentpoles. So I think it's a better time than ever to be a Star Wars fan.
And how do you guys prioritize what goes out? Because like you say, you've got all of that stuff coming, and you've got the 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, which is obviously being promoted as well. So how does it get decided what you push and when?
Absolutely. I think kind of what fans want is our North Star, and so, you know, as we've said, we get that from cons, which is why it's great we're coming to cons in the EU now and getting the EU perspective as well. A lot of the times it dovetails with what fans everywhere else want, but there are some differences, so we want to make sure that we get fans everywhere what they want. So it's at the cons, it's, you know, talking with fans online. We do have some proprietary research tools that we use as well, but we always just ask ourselves, like, is this what the fans want? Is this what the most fans want? You know, wherever it is. We try not to spread ourselves too thinly. We like to do collections within collections. So those are kind of the two things we look at.
Okay, so you would like to put out every figure from every film and property.
I think
but
so.
There's too much content coming too quick.
Yeah,
so you can't.
Yeah, you know. But in 100 years, we'll finally get them all done. I'm sure it'll be sooner
Between
than
the
that.
prequels, you had like 3 years to build all the characters in the background.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't complain about so much Star Wars content coming up. But it means that we don't have those 3 years to like really delve in deep. We'll have to get to them later.
So the HasLab, very successful. You asked the question at the panel, and well done. You keep on saying it's coming to Europe, and we're not going to ask any more than that because you've answered the question. But has that changed the thinking in Hasbro about how you bring things to market?
You mean in general or in terms of... Oh, absolutely, yeah. So HasLab was fantastic. I think we've said, like, it was a roller coaster of emotions. Like, it was for everyone, right? So we had this idea, Joe Ninivaggi and Steve Evans had this idea, and we were like, all right, we're going to try it. Like, you know, we think the fans will come out for it. They've been telling us they will, so let's kind of do this together. As you guys know, like 10 days before this, maybe 5 days or so, I was like, so I kind of, you know, we thought about going online, but obviously it happened, and then it blew past the numbers, so really just kind of affirmed for us how passionate the fans are. We always knew, but it kind of proved it. So absolutely. It's something that we are definitely looking at in the future. We haven't announced any other HasLab projects, but I think what we've always said is, like, it was a great success, so, like, you know, you kind of connect the dots.
Brainstormed and come with a list as long as you're on.
Absolutely.
So how long ago, because it was announced at the beginning of this year at Toy Fair.
Yep, February.
Before then, when did you start working on the sail barge and the idea of HasLab?
That's a good question. I think it was about a year in the making. So from kind of when it was first an idea to crowdfund something, because there was a lot to vet out. There was, you know, what item was there going to be done? Obviously, the barge was the obvious choice. But then it was the first time we had ever done something like that for Hasbro or in the toy industry. And so there was actually a lot of logistical complexity, legal complexity to work out, which is, as we've said, why we could only launch in a couple markets specifically. But now we're working through those complexities for other markets.
The Kickstarter kind of way of doing things, there's been a lot of problems over what's happening, not with your stuff, but the way Kickstarter does it with the legal markets, and it's a minefield for law in different countries, isn't it?
Yeah, and hopefully in the future it'll be known as the HasLab way of doing things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, it's my eyes were
to you, isn't it?
Yeah, my eyes were, because I was also the same. I was kind of like, well, why can't we just do this everywhere? And learning about just all the hordes of people who do this work and do it amazingly, like, you know, it opened my eyes to how complex it is.
Will the European version have to be CE tested? Will it still be counted as a toy, even though it's more of a collectible?
So I don't think I can go into the specifics there, but I can say we will abide by all necessary regulations.
It will be legally compliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't matter you, cakes matter you anyway.
I don't think I should comment on that.
No, that's right. So I think that's an interesting way the market's going, and most of our listeners and readers, I'm pleased to say, is worldwide, but we are from the UK. I was talking to some of the retailers earlier, some of our local suppliers, and we were saying there's a lack of understanding about how things get to market in the UK compared to the US.
Yeah.
So we know that's something you guys have been thinking about. Is there anything you want to tell us? Obviously, you can't tell us about contracts and things like that, but are you passionate about bringing like the exclusives and things like that? That you can...
So we talk internally, and we said, like, we have these toys.
Yeah.
You want the toys, and you want to give us money for them. Like, we should be able to figure out
why
how
is
to
it all
make that
becoming
work.
so difficult?
I think it's a long chain, right?
Yeah.
There's like, we work with people who kind of produce the toys, and then we have them. You even saw on the panel, we have our global team and our regional team and our UK team, and then there's retailers. So it's just a long line, and we're trying to work to kind of bring different parts of that supply chain together. So I mentioned exactly to just understand what the obstacles and complexities are. So I know I've mentioned to you guys, we do a fan summit now. We did it for the first time last year, where our regional, global, and market teams from around Europe come together so that we understand what the challenges are from their end. They understand the challenges, and maybe there's an easy solution that we can make to get the toys here. We've also started doing monthly calls about distribution alone with all of the European markets so that we can be sharing kind of what items are on a wave, etc., and make sure that knowledge passes all the way down. So I know we say a lot.
The retail market has changed a lot in the last 5 years, hasn't it?
Absolutely,
The last 20 years, so many. I mean, your main market is the American mass market retail.
I would say our largest.
But for your core products. And that has changed immensely. There's only Walmart and Kmart and a couple left. Same over here. It's all just imploded.
And I think
consolidated online.
I think what's apparent, which people perhaps don't understand, is it's not one solution. Because there's a different way of supplying a major chain retailer than there is a specialist shop. And I think...
But it's our job to figure that out. And so I know that we say a lot like we're working on it, trust us, but so I wanted to provide a couple specific examples of what we're doing to help that communication happen and get those products into the hands of people who want them.
You'd like to have every toy store around the world stock a decent range of all the figures that should be out on a peg, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
That's your dream.
Yeah, but I know that they have challenges as well, and so we're trying to like understand those and get the products where they need to be.
When are the case mixes changing up then?
So we've said in 2019, that's when we're moving to less waves, more new figures per wave. And again, that was just because we were putting out waves that were sometimes a month apart. And if you think about the retailers, they have huge challenges as well, like getting in a new case, getting it stocked, and then another wave a month later. Like that's a lot to ask. So moving to less waves, and also then more new figures in a case means less repacks.
Places like Toys R Us, etc., and Walmart go to their shelf or their computer and go, we've got 12 figures, we don't need another case.
Exactly. So helping them with that challenge.
You can never get a perfect case mix. It's never going to happen.
We try.
We can try.
But that's very kind of you to say.
No, I know. As a retailer myself, you cannot have a perfect case mix because there's always somebody who wants 4 of that figure of that character.
And
a case comes to me and I nick the Boba Fett. That's, it's... But you are working to make it far better.
We're trying. Hopefully it works out next year.
Are you still selling cases as of that's how much a case costs? So, because it used to be the way that when a case of figures came out, you didn't care what each figure costed, but as long as the case itself cost the right amount. Does that make sense?
So I can't get into the specifics of
but is it still that way that the case is what the case costs rather than what each individual figure costs? So if you've got like a figure that costs loads of money to make, you have to balance it out with repacks, so the case costs the same amount.
So one thing I would say is, so we're not balancing it out with repacks at all. Like I don't know if we did that in the past, but kind of currently we're looking at a case back.
That's what I heard years ago from Hasbro.
Okay. Currently we're looking at a case back, and this is the honest truth, we're trying to put the figures out that the fans want. So if there are repacks, we're trying to make sure they're smart repacks. If a case pack of 8 has 6 new figures, we're trying to pick the 6 figures that the fans want the most, not the ones that are cheapest. I think you see this in the 6-inch. That's why we've created the deluxe line, is that we didn't want to skimp Grievous. He was too expensive in our main line, so we created a new price point. So I think that's how we're addressing that issue.
One last personal question, and then we'll let you go on because you're very present with your time.
No, not at all.
What do you collect?
do I collect? So, I mean, honestly, so Star Wars toys solely. So I'm a Star Wars fan. Love Marvel, love Transformers, but just growing up, I love Star Wars. I was a Star Wars fan. And honestly, like, I'm a Hasbro loyalist, so it really is our Black Series and vintage lines. So I think what I'll say is, you know, Funko's great. You know, I like our movie accurate, screen accurate details.
No big black eyes and blockheads.
I'm not going to say anything about that. But I think what I would say is we absolutely want to take the time that it takes to get that movie accuracy. So I want to look at the figures. I love the diorama scenes. You know, I love seeing those pictures online. I'm not a diorama maker myself. I don't have the talent, but I love seeing it online and, you know, almost thinking that that's a movie scene. And it's a huge part of that is the movie accurate figures. And so if it takes 12 to 18 months to achieve that, then I'm glad that we're able to take the time and that the fans have the patience to achieve that level of movie accuracy.
So there's lots of cool stuff coming.
Yes, as we've seen.
I can reveal there's lots of cool stuff coming. Revealed exclusively here.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Open up and play with.
Yes, exactly.
Brilliant.
We will have more toys coming in 2019. You heard it here first.
Brilliant. Excellent. Brilliant.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. You guys are great. We love you. And thanks to all of the UK fans.
Hello, Bantha Tracks. Bantha Tracks. I screwed it up. Hi, Bantha Tracks.
Yesterday, I was at MCM Comic Con down in London at the XL, which of course any Star Wars fan in the UK and Europe will know was the home of Celebration Europe in 2007 and 2016. It's a big old place and they pretty much packed it out. It was absolutely rammed. All sorts of stuff there, all sorts of guests. It was also the very first convention that Michael Pennington, who played Moff Gigerod in Return of the Jedi, it was his very first show. I had the chance to sit in on a panel, including Michael Pennington, Caroline Blakiston, who was Mon Mothma, Garrick Hagan, who was Biggs Darklighter, and Angus McInnes, who was Gold Leader. And here's just the last 5 minutes of their talk, just to give you a flavour of what the conversation was about and how it went. It was a really good talk. Here's some audio.
Do you have any Star Wars merchandise at home?
Merchandise?
Merchandise at home yourself?
I know there's Star Wars merchandise.
I got tons of it.
Yeah.
People keep giving me stuff. I love it. I mean, it's fabulous. They give me Y-Wing fighters, and they give me... Somebody did a picture. They painted a picture of fantastic. I got lots of stuff. I love it.
Yeah, they're lovely little gifts from all over the place. I had a girl last week, a lovely girl called Brian, who had my pic, and I've got pictures that people have drawn in from all over the place. It's wonderful.
Yeah, do you want to answer your question?
Well, it's not really a question, just to say thank you to the lady because, as you mentioned, there are not that many women in Star Wars, at least in the first film. And as a kid, I grew up watching you and Carrie Fisher, and if I wanted to be ceremonial and calm, I would be like you, and I would act like you. If I wanted to be strong-headed and a bit impertinent, I would be a bit more Carrie Fisher. So really thank you for playing that part, and thank you for being here and understanding how important it is for girls and boys here.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's true, actually, Carolyn, because you tend to have played sort of strong women, it seems, a fair few strong women. Is that just coincidence?
What, in my own professional life all the time?
Yeah.
I think I'm tall and I've got a sort of aquiline nose, which means that I look like somebody who could have been a Roman emperor or something like that. I always feel rather frail and old ladyish nowadays, and indeed when I was young I used to feel frail, but I had to hide it because it's a man's world.
Well, you certainly take them on in Poldark, so...
Yeah, well, I loved Aunt Agatha. Anybody else who loved Aunt Agatha say so, because I loved her. I loved her. In fact, I loved her to death, which was a pity, because she died to death.
That's true. Okay, you get the final question.
Okay. You've talked a lot about how your stage work and theatre is actually really where your career has been. And we've talked about the animation series, the live-action TV series, I think is coming out, and the various other media. So when will Star Wars come to Broadway?
They do it as a musical, right? I don't think so.
How would you do it? What would the budget be?
Tell us the budget. No, I've often thought it would be great to do it as a part of a conference. I always thought, why get the Star Wars actors? We'll do what Leonard Nimoy does with the actors, is do an audio program We never did get it together. I mean, I do a lot of audiobooks as a director, and I just wish we could have worked that out with Jeremy and Paul and everybody together, Caroline, Michael, and so on. And that would have been great, because the Star Trek people did that. But that we never did. We haven't done that.
Next time.
We'll have to do it in wheelchairs.
Take it on a world tour.
With lightsabers.
Let me get really close.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. Everybody give a massive round of applause to our Star Wars panelists.
Thank you.
Can you believe, Dave, that Michael Pennington has gone all this time since Return of the Jedi and not done a convention? I actually asked him this. I did an interview for a magazine, and I said, how did it not happen that you came and did them? And he was basically said, oh, no malice, no reason. I was just busy. Can you believe that somebody has gone that long without ever doing one? Because he really enjoyed it.
I'm really surprised by that. Because I would have said that, like, we must have rinsed through, like, every single UK actor about 5 million times. So when you say first convention, was that, like, literally as in the first convention ever, or has he done celebrations and things like that?
The first convention.
You're kidding me?
No. You know, when you meet somebody and like, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get back.
Yeah.
And generally, you know, they got the other three folks on the panel, you know exactly what you're going to get from those guys because they've been doing shows forever and a day. And Pennington hadn't, because he'd been off doing RSC stuff, and he's a friend of Ian McDiarmid and done other stuff. So I didn't know whether he would be like some of the guests are a bit, it's a film I did 30 years ago and it was a week's work, and you know, and they're a little bit not offish, but you know, it was just a job. So I wondered whether or not that was the case with him. So far from that, it was ridiculous, and he really enjoyed chatting with these guys and seemed to be really into it. And all I could think was, what a shame. It would have been really cool to have had this guy on the convention scene for the last few years, because he was just so nice.
Yeah. No, I am really quite surprised at that. Maybe he should double his efforts.
Oh, dude. You went there.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Star Wars fan, Fantha Tracks fan.
Speaking of people who double their efforts, last weekend, at the same time as you and me were at Destination Star Trek in Birmingham, Martin Keeler and his wife Emma were all the way over in Petaluma at the Rancho Gala. Martin had an awesome time. You and me had a chat with Steve a couple of weeks ago. The first part went out in the last episode. Here's the second part of us talking to Steve about the gala and about collecting. Speaking of episode 1, 20 years old next year, so Celebration, which you of course had a hand in. Can you believe it's 20 years since Phantom and since that first celebration in Denver?
No.
It doesn't seem right, does it? But, you know, you must have, again, some wonderful memories of all of those events, because obviously you were opening so many of them.
The memories of Celebration 1. I could write a book.
You should write a book.
50-year reigns in Denver, and all we had were 2 leaky tents and 1 small museum and 10,000 people. You know, if anything was going to put an end to fandom, it could have been Celebration 1. Or put an end to Celebration, it could have been Celebration 1. 1,000 fans coming down with pneumonia. But that didn't happen. And people sort of take it as, this has been used before, but Mudstock. It was our Woodstock. It was, despite the problems, people remember it fondly, and it was quite an experience. And it was like 10 days after Columbine and the horrific shootings that took place at the high school. And the celebration was almost canceled. I mean, behind the scenes, it was quite an internal battle to keep it going. But Dan Madsen of Fantastic Media, who ran the fan club, and the Star Wars Insider, was a fighter and is a fighter. And because of Dan and what he was able to muster, we went ahead with Celebration, and in retrospect, it could only be looked at as a success. And we've continued with 13 of them now.
Wow. I was going to say, history was made really from that first point. I hadn't appreciated that there's been 13.
I think maybe the Chicago will be number 13, because I remember there were buttons you filled out at the last one, and I think I put 12 on there.
You're gonna have to have service stripes and things like that, tour of duties and stuff like that.
If you have service stripes, it'll be coming down your sleeve. I mean, to the palm.
We'll figure it out.
That must be one of your proudest achievements, though, being involved in Celebration, something that had such great legs and lasted so long.
Absolutely, it certainly is. It was Dan and John Bradley Snyder and Anthony Daniels and me, and sitting in an office in the suburbs of Denver, and 2 weeks before the event, saying, "What is this going to be?" and putting together the programs. Yeah, literally 2 weeks out. We had all the talent and we had everything, and we just had to put it all together. And there were some long nights and stressful days, but it all came together.
It certainly did. Of course, next year we've got the parks opening. What are your views on that? Because again, it's all part of this major, massive Star Wars expansion that's happening at the moment. We are literally taking over this galaxy.
I think it's going to be very exciting. I mean, I'm wondering how long it's going to take for the crowds to clear so I can get down there. But Galaxy's Edge looks like an amazing venture. And the more we hear about the new hotel down in Orlando, that seems like an adventure on its own. I think that for a while we're going to see huge crowds. I think it's going to be, I'll see. Can I sneak in? I used to be Steve Sansweet.
The amount of merch you're going to have to... It's lucky you've got a new car to take it
God. I've had to slow down, guys. I've run out of space. Forget about the money. I mean, not even talking about the money. There's no money there. But, I mean, even with money, there's just, in addition to the museum, we have a 3,500 square foot offsite warehouse, and it is filled. And this is supposed to be the place where we have room so we can start sorting through things and continuing our inventory and stuff like that. And it is really a challenge.
Well, what's your focus now? Are you focusing down on vintage stuff, or what's your breakdown at the moment? Because like you say, just from a practical point of view, you literally can't collect everything. So is there a sort of a focus at the moment?
Well, I'm trying to keep up with the action figures. I was trying to keep up with the Topps cards, but they're just keep coming out. So it's a little hard to even keep track of them. Gentle Giant and Sideshow are my two real go-tos as far as the merch. I love the stuff they're doing, but the Disney stores are doing great stuff too.
Yeah.
Then there's the Funko Pops, and then there it goes on and on and on. And I used to try to collect all of the pins that the parks were putting out, and that's become impossible. There's just too much, too much quality stuff.
Yeah.
Samsung even made a Darth Vader robot vacuum cleaner.
Really?
So, yeah. I mean,
I need one of those.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we need one at Rancho to just go up and down the aisles.
Yeah.
Clean up. But it's fun. It's all fun, and I don't regret anything. And, I get what I like. I see something weird and some funny stuff. I see some stuff that we have in the auction that I really would like to make part of the collection. And, we'll see. Everybody gets a chance, and people outbid me all the time. So,
what's the one that got away at a previous gala? What's the one thing you thought, I wish I'd got that got away?
There was a wonderful hand-crocheted BB-8 blanket.
Yes.
And it was beautiful. Pablo Hidalgo got that one.
Yeah.
Darn. And then somebody did a felt C-3PO cereal box, and I really wanted that one. That was really cool. Somebody went up to, I think, $600 on it, and I said,
wow.
They really want it more than I do. So, I mean, they really want it. Yeah. Let that go.
Was that a prolific cereal box collector?
No, it wasn't. That's why it sort of surprised me. It was a friend who lives in Petaluma, and I thought, what the hell is he bidding so much money on that? He said, well, usually most of the stuff I see at the auctions that I really want, you get. So I said, I don't buy that much. I buy a couple of pieces. It's fun. It's fun.
Is it still a case of the one-off fan-made items that...
Absolutely. I love those things. Somebody just offered me, they're in the midst of building a cantina diorama and action figure size. Oh, and it's the entire building. And I said, it looks like it's going to be beautiful, but I just don't have the space to be able to show it, because it will have to be at a certain level, and you have to have the, enough square footage to be able to show the thing, take off the roof, and, show the inside. And it's heartbreaking to have to say no to something like that.
Yeah.
So people do offer us things, and sometimes it's toys, and sometimes it's things like that we can use. I mean, some of the stuff ends up in our gala store, or prizes for our balloon pops. Pick a level of balloon pop, and you get depending on the cost of the balloon pop, you get that level of prize. We're going to have a ring toss, and as many empty bottles of Skywalker Vineyard wine as you can toss your ring on. Those are highly.
That sounds like the kind of carnival game research that I like.
Yes.
to be able to build that one up.
And those are highly collectible bottles because of the label with the Skywalker icon on it that looks like an angel but is not. It's the Skywalker icon. I've been corrected several times on that. And again, there's some really beautiful art. So much stuff that you can see at ranchoobiwan.org. All of the stuff that's up and available for the auction. There's even a set of 7 Lucasfilm holiday cards.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
A John Dykstra signed production storyboard, and a John Berg signed original production storyboard from our friends at Prop Store. There's a lot of stuff this year. Beautiful laser embossed skateboard decks. A hand-painted prototype Leia ornament from Hallmark, one of 5 hand-painted Leia originals.
Oh, wow.
And then for the completest Hallmark collector, we've got the 2018 and some of the 2017 ornaments signed by the artists.
Oh, nice.
So a whole set of ornaments. Just great stuff. So you can get online and see all of this. And if you're a member of Rancho Obi-Wan, you can bid, and you can become a member at the same time by going to ranchoobiwan.org. We're approaching the holidays, and people have given gifts of membership as holiday gifts. If you have a Star Wars fan in your life and you don't know quite what to give them, we have a really nice membership kit with a embroidered patch and art card and letter and all kinds of cool stuff.
My kit came through a couple of days ago. I absolutely love the new pin with the green colouring on it. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks cool, doesn't it?
It really does look cool. And the Molo card, it's the last of the series of the Molo cards, isn't it? So that looks wonderful. So yeah, well done again on an awesome pack.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us so much of your time, Steve. It's always a pleasure, and we'll have to chat to you again sometime. Sadly, I won't see you at the gala, but we have got a Fanta tracker there. Martin Keeler's going over. He came third in your poker tournament last year, so and he thought the third place prize was better than the first place prize.
Well, good for him.
So good for him. So I think he's all geared up for the poker because he does like to play that. Thanks again.
Great talking to you guys.
We will be back with episode 14, but before we fly off into the sunset like Space Mary Poppins, let's tell everybody where we can be found. Where can people find you, Dave?
You can find me on Facebook as All the Cool Stuff, which is the business that we run, and which is a toy shop. You can also find us on Facebook at Farthest From, which is the show that we're running. Also down in Fordingbridge, which we dovetail in with Fantha Day, which will be coming up in December. As mentioned, we also have the Lego show this weekend, so a bunch of the Fantha trackers will be there running the Lego Speed Build Challenge. So build the Lego model in the fastest time, get your name down on the leaderboard there. But you'll be able to find us there, and also on Fantha Tracks TV, which is commandeered by Martin Keeler, and you will find new content every Saturday and every Wednesday. So there's a phenomenal, in addition to like all the great work that Fantha Tracks team does as a whole, but on Fantha Tracks TV you'll see some elements of like expanded interviews of the things that we talked about here. There's a lot of product reviews, and also convention coverage as well. So the aforementioned New York Comic Con, there's some great content up there, including like the Hasbro panels as well. And you can find us there literally on YouTube at Fantha Tracks. Mark, if I was to ask you where's the check from Nestle Pure Still Life Water, and where do I email that invoice to, or how do I get in touch with you?
Well, the water comes from a well. I don't know. I'd love to give you an honest answer. Indeed, my bank details, sort code, and all that stuff, but I can't.
I've got that already.
Have you got that? Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at prefect_timing, where I occasionally ramble and rant. You can also find me behind the Twitter handle for Fantha Tracks. Also this week, just to let you know that Claire took over our Fantha Tracks Twitter handle because she did a live tweet along with the girls from Fangirls Going Rogue, watching Solo A Star Wars Story. If you haven't had a chance to go and follow that little thread, it was a lot of fun. I've dipped into there and had a good look, and it was really good. Some great observations, so do that. That's something that they do semi-regularly. Lots of galleries going on Fantha Tracks Facebook page as well. Tomorrow is our first anniversary, so a little bit longer for you, me, Brian and Matt, because we were prepping it and getting it ready. But to the world, the galaxy and the rest of the multiverse, Fantha Tracks is 1 year old. We've hit 5,000 posts on the site. We've gone over 150 videos on YouTube. I'm proud as punch about it, and I think we all should be proud because I think we've done really, really well.
I can be prouder for the amount that has been done in the space of a year. Is absolutely knockout. I couldn't be more proud. There's not a day that goes by where there hasn't been like a whole ton of things, content in one form or another that has been generated.
Until next time, everyone.
Whee!